Assalamu alaikum my dear friends, I'm Sayyid Kashif Mahmood. In this video we will discussing about group and its characteristics, and then we will also discuss some important terms which I have already written on the whiteboard, like InGroup, OutGroup, formal group, informal group, pressure group and vested interested group. So I hope inshallah after the lecture there will be no any kind of confusion. So let's start the topic. First of all, what is a group? If someone asks you what is a group, so the best definition which you can give will be this one, that group is made of at least 2% or more than 2%. The first condition for a group is the concentration or quantity of people. Group cannot be made from only one person, but whenever the group is made, so it need more than one person. At least two are also able to make group, but without these two the group cannot be made. So the first point is this, that group is made of at least 2% or more than 2 persons. Now the second point is having communication. So the two or more than 2 persons which are there in a group, they will have communication. They will talk with one another, will exchange information with one another, and this communication can be in many forms. It can be in the form of verbal, or it can be in the form of non-verbal. So there can be many kind of communication, and the group people will have shared interest. Now what does shared interest mean? There are two kinds of interest. One is individual interest, and the other is shared interest. Individual interest is that kind of interest in which the person is interested individually, which is better for only one person. And the shared interest is that kind of interest in which all the group is interested and which is better for all the group. So they will having shared interest. So I hope the definition will be clear. After the definition of the group, now let's discuss the characteristics of the group. What does characteristic mean? Characteristics are basically those points through which we can understand something. So I have written 4 basic characteristics. The first one is 2 or more persons. In the group there will be 2 or more persons, which I have explained here. The second one is communication. So they will having communication. If the people are living together, then they will surely having communication, because we are gifted by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala with communication. Now let's discuss the third number characteristic, and that is shared interest. As I have differentiated between individual interest and shared interest here, so the group must have to have shared interest. Let's suppose I am taking the example of class. The class of physics or the class of botany or any other field, and that class is the class of BS. So they will have the shared interest to take the degree of BS in their respective field. So they will have shared interest. The last point is interdependency. In the group, the peoples depend upon one another. So it is very important. Let's suppose if I am taking the example of family. So the children depend upon the father income. So there be interdependency among the individuals of the group. Now let's discuss some important terms. So start from the InGroup. InGroup is that kind of group in which there are close communication or frequent communication. because here the people are very close to one another. That's why they will communicate frequently or closely. The second point is of emotional feeling. So they will have very much emotional feeling. They will feel very emotional for one another. The example of this group is family. As we know that we are very emotional regard our family members like father and mother, brothers and sisters. So we are very much emotional regard these members. So here is close communication and emotional feeling. Our group is the opposite of this one. So here will be less communication. OutGroup will have less communication. And the second point is that their emotional feeling will not be like the in-group like people. Their emotional feeling will be very less as compared to the example of this group. We can take like college or school. Let's suppose if someone is injured in this group, which is very close group, and that person is our family member, so we will feel very kind and very curious for them, rather than if someone is injured in college or school. Still we will feel a lot of sadness, but that sadness will be very low if we compare that with this in group. So I hope it is clear. Now let's discuss the formal group. The formal group is that kind of group in which the objectives of something, rules of someone, as well as time frame will be documented. And from the word formal, we can know that it will be that kind of group which will having a lot of formalities. So the first thing is that their objectives, their rules, some rules, and the time frame will be documented. There will be documentation for each of the rule, each of the objective, and each of the time frame. The second thing which is very important is legal status. There will be legal status for each and every person. Like a teacher, it has a legal status, and teacher, while it has a legal status, so it will have proper function and he must have to do that, and that is teaching. Like a doctor, so the person who is doctor, he has a legal status, and with that he has to treat the patient. We are having legal status as a student also, which be there in a college or school, and he be there so that to study and learn. So there are legal status in such group. Now let's proceed into informal group. Informal is that kind of group which do not having formalities, in simple words, or we can say that there is no concept of documentation, no documentation. There is no documentation. The second point, no legal status. What does it mean? It means that, as we have discussed, that they have status on the basis of their rules and regulation. So here there is no any kind of legal status that they will have to do that. They have legally a status because of which they will do a specific function. So there is no any concept of such things. So here we can give the example of class or college, and here we can give the example of family. Now let's proceed into pressure group. Pressure is that kind of group which pressurizing other people to achieve their own goals, Now pressure group are that kind of group which pressurizing other peoples to achieve their own goals. It can be positive and can be negative. While they are doing strikes, so that can be for positive reasons and that can be for negative reasons. Let's suppose I am taking example of students, that they are striking so that to let their exam. They are saying that we are not prepared for exam, we will having strike and will delay the exam. So it is also a kind of pressure group, that they are trying to achieve something for their own goals and purpose. Now here is another point, that this group will be temporary. This is temporary, which means it will be for a short period of time, because when they achieving their goal, then why they have to do strike and pressurize others. So it is temporary. Vested interested group, or we can also say self-interested group. It is that kind of group which suggesting something for others for their personal benefits. Vested or self-interested group is that kind of group which suggesting other something for their own benefits and welfare. Let's suppose we can give the example of teacher and doctor. Let's suppose if a teacher having a tuition academy, so he will trying to suggest the students that the good students are those who also doing tuition, so that to make themselves more able. Now while he is suggesting the tuition to students, he has his own purpose and he has his own interest. So one example can be this. The second example can be of doctor. Let's suppose if a doctor checking the patient in government hospital and he trying to be like in self-interested group, so he will say that your problem is very big, you should visit a private institution where you can check your body in a more better way. And he himself having private institution out the hospital, so he suggesting that thing for his own benefit and for his own welfare. So it is self-interested group. So I hope it will be clear to all of you. Inshallah, we'll meet in the next video. Assalamu alaikum.